Hello, nerds. I'm Jamie Hardiman, aspiring writer, newbie YouTuber, professional beta reader, and lover of awesome stories. Welcome to my channel. I hope you're having a great day wherever you are, and I hope that I can make it even better. The final episode of Rings of Power Season 1 came out on October 14th, 2022. Unfortunately, the season was, in many ways, pretty terrible and a huge disappointment to millions of fans. By now, we've begun to process our collective trauma. I've been doing a lot of thinking about it. In fact, I stayed up all last night, thinking until 3:30 a.m., about all the ways Rings of Power sucked and what could have made it better. I've decided that what Rings of Power needs is a story makeover. I'll be changing and removing several scenes and B-plots as we go along, but for the most part, I'll be working with the elements presented in Rings of Power. If only we could rewind time and have the showrunners start completely from scratch. But alas, we must accept what we have been given and make our own peace with it.
All we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given to us.
Also, I should go ahead and mention that if you're the type of Tolkien fan who cares deeply about the lore, this may not be the series for you. Don't get me wrong, I adore Lord of the Rings. I've read The Hobbit and the trilogy books over and over again since childhood, and I've watched the extended films time and time again. But I'm really a normie fan when you get right down to it. All that stuff about the lore, the languages, First Age, Second Age, etc. is cool, but it's never really interested me. At least not until now that Amazon has butchered it so thoroughly. I definitely plan to catch up on my lore between now and when Rings of Power Season 2 comes out. So, on to my
story makeover. Let's do a makeover.
Today we're starting with Episode 1. The show opens with Galadriel giving a monologue. Nothing is evil in the beginning. And there was a time when the world was so young there had not yet been a sunrise. But even then there was light. But then it cuts right to baby Galadriel getting bullied by a gang of mini elf delinquents. Galadriel has made an origami boat of which she is very proud. One of her bullies says derisively, "Even you couldn't possibly believe that old scrap would float." And Galadriel answers, "It's not going to float, it's going to sail." She sticks it in the water, and it sails beautifully. That is, until the team of little elf bullies pelt it with rocks and make it sink. Galadriel is so upset that she tackles her bully to the ground and is just about to punch him in the face when her big brother Finrod breaks it up. As soon as I saw this scene, I thought, I'm in for a stinker of a show. This scene makes no sense. Why tell us nothing is evil in the beginning, and then show us the exact opposite of what you just said? It's like the screenwriters were warning us from the very beginning. Buckle up, this is going to be a bumpy ride. Then Finrod launches into his, "Do you know why a ship floats while a stone cannot?" speech. This was an awkward speech that should have been cut. It goes on for a little while, until Galadriel says, "It's hard to know which way is up and which way is down." Another awkward line. Then her brother leans in and whispers something in her ear that the audience can't hear. Why? We're only 5 minutes in, and I'm already very annoyed and confused. With Galadriel narrating, the show goes on to briefly explain the background. Morgoth, the big baddie who was Sauron's predecessor, the fall of Middle-earth, etc. We get one brief shot of the vast, sundering seas, which are filled with untold perils and strange creatures beyond count, which separates Valinor, where Galadriel was born, and Middle-earth, where the action of the show takes place. Galadriel narrates how her big brother Finrod died in battle, and how his flesh was marked with an evil symbol, one whose meaning even our wisest could not discern. The symbol later turns out to be merely a map of Mordor. Are you telling me that in the millennia following Morgoth's defeat, the elves could never figure this out? I'm no elf, but I'm pretty darn sure I could have figured this out, at least after 50 years of serious thinking. Didn't it occur to any of them to check a map? Anyway, moving on. The next scene is a chilly, resolute Galadriel, high up on a mountain, scaling a smooth wall of ice with nothing more than pointy metal boots and her dead brother's dagger. This looks impossible, but she is an elf, I guess. Galadriel is leading a team of elves to search out and destroy Sauron, the evil sorcerer and Morgoth's apprentice, who, thousands of years ago, following the end of the Great War, slipped away and wriggled into oblivion. But Galadriel is convinced Sauron is still out there somewhere, even though she hasn't seen hide nor hair of him for millennia. So long ago, in fact, that, for many elves, the danger had passed out of thought and mind. But not for Galadriel. Oh no, she hasn't calmed down one bit. She's still searching for Sauron with the same vengeful, obsessive intensity that she began with thousands of years ago. So, Galadriel pushes her team to keep going, and going, and going. This is not a happy team. When was the last time they got a raise, a party, or even a thank you? Galadriel doesn't look like a very fun boss. Their efforts have finally paid off, however. At long last, they discover an abandoned fortress that obviously belonged to Sauron. Along with some scary mummified orcs, Galadriel discovers the same mark that she had found upon her dead brother. But, oh no, the fortress isn't abandoned after all. They do battle with an ice troll, losing many elven lives, after which, Galadriel's company lay down their swords in mutiny, declaring that they will go no further. I'd like to stop here and remark, I get that the elves are cold, hungry, and discouraged, but why would they stop now? Seems that they just found their first real clue. Shouldn't they be a little bit excited? But anyway, moving on. They return home, and it is now that we meet Elrond for the first time. Elrond is writing a speech for the upcoming ceremony. He is interrupted by a lady elf who tells him, "I was sent to tell you that you are not allowed at the next meeting. Elf lords only." Elrond looks annoyed at this. I was annoyed too when I discovered that this line literally has nothing to do with the rest of the season's plot. Then she says, "By the way, your friend is here," and he's like, "Why didn't you say so, lady?" It's not a very happy reunion, however. Karen Ladriel is not happy about her company's mutiny and wants a new company. She demands to speak to the manager, High King Gil-galad. Elrond, who happens to be King Gil-galad's advisor, cautions Galadriel not to rock the boat, warning her that the king has chosen to ignore her insolence and instead honor her accomplishments. At the ceremony, Galadriel and the elves who survived the ice troll are crowned by Gil-galad and told that they are being granted passage back to Valinor, the highest honor that can be accorded to elves. Galadriel doesn't want to go to Valinor, as she has serious PTSD and an obsessive need to fulfill her quest. To be fair, if I had spent the last few millennia of my life hunting for an evil sorcerer only to be shipped away when I had just found my first real clue, I'd be upset too. But after some arm-twisting from her friend Elrond, Galadriel reluctantly agrees to accept this kingly gift. One of the things Elrond tells her is how beautiful Valinor is, and how when you approach it, you are immersed in a light more intoxicating than any sensation in Middle-earth. Galadriel replies, "When I was a child, it was the only feeling I knew." Sure it was, except when you were getting bullied. Thanks to Elrond's urging, Galadriel gets on the boat with her elven buddies, and they sail the sundering seas. The way it's shot, it looks like the elves just stand stock still on the deck, wearing their white clothes the entire way. Don't they ever have to eat, sleep, poop, or anything? It looks like they don't. Honestly, I know it's supposed to look cool, but the way they're standing in formation makes them look like some cult. Anyway, moving on. They sail all the way across the sundering seas, until the clouds part, and they see the light of Valinor. A sweet song fills the air. All the elves are overjoyed, except for Galadriel. After remembering her vow to find and destroy Sauron, Galadriel jumps ship at the last possible minute. I just realized they didn't even try to throw her a life preserver or anything, but I guess it was too late. The clouds close together again, and Galadriel is officially shut off from Valinor. She has to swim the sundering seas, those vast, treacherous sundering seas, without so much as a stick of driftwood to hang on to. I get that elves are tough, but this is pretty much impossible. I assume that the journey by ship takes at least 3 or 4 months, and I assume it should take at least double the time to swim. Are you telling me that Galadriel is going to swim for 6 to 8 months straight with no food, water, sleep, or weapons? Elves are tough, but this is ridiculous. After this, we cut to King Gil-galad, who admits to Elrond, yes, the shadow, meaning Sauron, exists, but we foresaw that if Galadriel had kept searching, she might have kept alive the very evil she sought to defeat. My thought is, why not tell her that? They totally gaslit her and packed her off on a ship. And guess what, guys? That's exactly what she ends up doing. Then King Gil-galad tells Elrond, "You remember that famous artisan, Celebrimbor? He's working on a special project to help save the elves' butts, and I want you to work with him." At this, Celebrimbor appears. As soon as I saw this man on the screen, he's played by Charles Edwards, I thought, he looks just like a hobbit. He definitely should have been cast as a hobbit. That's all I have to say about that. That closes Galadriel's plotline for this episode. Let's move on to the hobbits. By the way, they are hobbits. Tolkien created Stors, Falahides, and Harfoots, but as far as I understand it, these are all branches of hobbit. So if I slip up and call the Harfoots hobbits, please don't be mad at me. We meet Nori, a spunky young Harfoot with dreams of the wide world. Her father indulges her, but her stepmother is unhappy that Nori has her head in the clouds. Reminds me of my mom, heh. We also meet Sadik Burrows, a grumpy shaman who tells Nori that the skies are strange. The first scene that we get that shows Nori's character is her leading a group of little Harfoot kids to sneak off and go blackberry picking. Clearly, Nori has an adventurous spirit. Shortly after they arrive at the blackberry patch, Nori's little sister sees a wolf's footprint, which goes to show that there are rules against sneaking off for a reason. The children run away, and we get a menacing shot of the wolf's back. I think this is a flawed scene. Isn't the wolf hungry? Why show the wolf staring hungrily at the little hobbit children, just for nothing to happen? I would have been more excited about this scene if Nori had fought off or outsmarted the wolf in some way. Something to show that, yes, Nori broke the rules and put the children in danger, but she is also a fierce defender of her loved ones, and she is capable of handling herself. As the scene stands right now, I'm just mildly annoyed at Nori. The children make it back safely. The encampment of Harfoots is planning their next move. The Harfoots. They're Harfoots, but, it's a branch of Hobbit. Anyway, the Harfoots have a heartwarming little chant. Nobody goes off trail, and nobody walks alone. Which makes me really like them at first. Too bad that didn't last. More on that next episode. At the end of the episode, a fiery comet streaks from the sky and crashes in a field. Nori and her friend, Poppy, watch it fall, and Nori, being the spunky adventurer that she is, can't resist investigating. They find baby Gandalf passed out in a fiery crater. Now, we're not really supposed to know that he's baby Gandalf at this point, but as soon as I saw him, I thought, baby Gandalf. I think the beard gave him away. Now let's move on to the final plot thread of this episode. Arondir the elf, Bronwyn the human healer, and Bronwyn's son, Theo. For the last 79 years, Arondir and his elven bros have resided in a watchtower, presiding over the village and valley of Tirharad and the people in it, because the blood of those who once stood with Morgoth still darkens their veins. In those 79 years, Arondir has grown accustomed to his environment and fond of his human charges. Also, he has developed quite a crush on Bronwyn. Bronwyn and Arondir have a little moment by the well. She gives him some flower seeds, and he looks like he wants to give her a kiss, but he doesn't. This exchange is viewed with disdain by the nasty local barkeep guy, I can't remember his name at the moment, and also by Arondir's elven friend, who chides him by saying that such a union, between elf and human, has only been attempted twice in all of recorded history, and is met with disaster both times. This friend of Arondir's is definitely the most annoying elf I've ever seen. While Arondir is getting chewed out by his annoying elf friend, another elf runs up and delivers the news that the team is being dissolved. They can all go home. Arondir is unhappy to hear this, as it means he can no longer have clandestine rendezvous with his beloved Bronwyn. While the other elves are packing up to depart, Arondir sneaks off to tell Bronwyn goodbye, and to declare that he has told her over and over again that he loves her, in every way but words. Bronwyn looks sad, but doesn't answer him, and instead of even saying goodbye back, just turns her back on him to go greet a farmer who just arrived with a sick cow. Arondir tags along. Turns out the cow probably ate some bad grass. Bronwyn and Arondir go to check out the area where the cow had supposedly been grazing. Whilst on this mission, they discover that the neighboring village has been burned down and abandoned. What force of evil could be responsible for this? While Arondir and Bronwyn are off on this mission, Bronwyn's teenage son, Theo, and Theo's thug friend sneak off to raid somebody's barn. Clearly, Theo is a juvenile delinquent and could use the instructive influences of a father. Theo's thug friend just happened to step on a lucky board, and he just has to know what goodies are stashed underneath. Under the floorboards, Theo finds a stash of food, and he also finds an evil-looking sword hilt inscribed with the symbol of Sauron. Happening to step on a lucky board is a weird way to find a weapon so essential to the plot. Where did this evil sword hilt come from? Why was it stashed with a bunch of food? Why did Theo steal it? I'm confused. Whose barn is it exactly? I think the barn belongs to the nasty barkeep guy, but I'm not sure. Anyway, moving on. That just about wraps up all the major plot points for this episode. Now that we've gone through them, let's move on to the makeover part of this story makeover. Number 1. As you can probably guess, I would completely scrap the opening scene with the elven bullies and the older brother who looks like he's 40. Instead, I would make Finrod just a little bit older than Galadriel. He could be showing her how to make an origami boat, and they could have a boat race to see whose boat is best. Finrod's boat would unfurl gracefully and win the race, and Galadriel's boat would refuse to open and get stuck on the rocks. Naturally, little Galadriel would be discouraged by this. Big Brother Finrod could help rescue her boat from the stream and tell her that when she sets her mind to something, like making an origami boat, she should never give up until it is accomplished. Finrod could say something like, "When there is something you truly want to do, or that you know you must do, you must never give up. even if it feels too difficult or silly or impossible, you must believe in yourself, even if no one else believes in you at first. Little would Finrod know to what lengths Galadriel would one day take his advice. This isn't a perfect fix, but I think that if the scene were written in this way, the audience would have a stronger understanding of Galadriel's love and admiration for her brother, and of the friendship that existed between them, while also giving a foundation for Galadriel's behavior throughout the season. Also, it wouldn't be a contradictory scene telling us that nothing is evil in the beginning, and then showing us small elf children being evil. Number 2. As I said before, I would change the scene with Nori and the wolf. Perhaps she could scare off the wolf with fire, or she could drop a boulder on the wolf's head from the top of a cliff. Just anything to make the scene a little more interesting and make me believe that Nori is hero material. Now on to the Arondir, Bronwyn, Theo plot. I would totally rewrite this. First of all, it makes no sense that an entire platoon of elves would be stationed high on a watchtower, and yet not see the legions of orcs burrowing like maggots through the countryside. They have elf eyes, right?
Legolas, what do your elf eyes see?
As many people have pointed out, this is a huge plot hole that makes no sense. So, instead of a platoon of elves in the tower, I would make it a small garrison of elves housed in the village, with tall trees obstructing their view on all sides. The elves are supposed to be keeping an eye on things, but after 79 years of no action, they've started to get a bit lazy. Arondir is the only one who isn't a snob, and who actually tries to make friends with the townsfolk. He's the most well-liked elf, but not by much. I would rewrite the character of Theo. I would make him a skinny, unpopular kid who is pretty annoying, but who dreams of doing something big with his life. Arondir is one of the few people who takes Theo seriously. We could see Theo taking lessons of swordplay from Arondir, drawing the scorn of the townsfolk, but making Bronwyn proud of Theo, and giving her yet another reason to fall in love with Arondir. Theo isn't particularly good at swordplay yet, but he's giving it his best. Despite his teenage clumsiness, you can tell he has the spark and the potential to grow up to do great things. However, young Theo has a poor reputation in the village, largely due to the fact that Theo is a boy who once cried wolf. I'm not sure exactly how I would write it. Maybe there's a false dragon sighting in Theo's past, like Hiccup in How to Train Your Dragon. But the point is, Theo is no longer considered to be a trustworthy source of news.
Okay, I cried.
Never call us again.
So when Theo comes to the village with a story of seeing an orc in the forest, the townspeople and the elves naturally ignore him. Even Arondir doesn't believe him at first. So, to prove himself and to test his newfound swordsmanship skills, Theo takes his sword and heads back out into the forest, planning to find and kill the orc if he can. Unfortunately, Theo doesn't find just one orc, but a whole bunch of them. It looks like poor young Theo is about to be killed and eaten, until Arondir shows up at the last minute, slaughters the band of orcs, and rescues Theo. Theo gets to kill an orc too. Arondir notices a piece of shiny white cloth sticking out of an orc's pack. He pulls it out, and it is a beautiful shimmering cloak of elven make. He is astounded to find that an orc is carrying something so beautiful and valuable. Arondir puts the cloak in his own pack, grabs an orc head to bring back to the village for proof, and brings Theo home. The beautiful elven cloak will continue to figure into future story makeovers. Well, that's a wrap on episode 1 of my Story Makeover Rings of Power series. Thank you guys for listening. If you guys liked my suggestions, didn't like them, or have story makeover suggestions of your own, I'd love to hear all about it down in the comments section. Please share, like, subscribe, etc. if you want to. This episode marks the official reboot of my YouTube channel. New episodes drop every Sunday. By the way, if you are a writer in search of a beta reader for your manuscript, I offer professional beta reading services. Information about that and links to my self-published short stories can be found on my website, www.jamiehardiman.com. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Goodbye, nerds.